I realized there are some loose ends that are left over from setting up the project to work with an open folder to work with MSVC. So today we're gonna finish that up, and next time I promise you we'll have the proper wipe coding. So the things I noticed were mostly around the fact that we are still dependent on the FX3 install path, which is the Cypress place, which should obviously be changed to our current. So where do we have it? We have it like one level up. Yeah, this is our open project, and this is in CY SDK 135. So let's start with that. You know what? Before we even go there, I mean, there is a lot of repetition over here, right? All these are repeated. And how about dry rule? Don't repeat yourself. So let's try to minimize that. To that end, we're gonna have a global environments section, which is a list of environments. Each one can be named. We're gonna leave it unnamed, which will default to the env namespace. So when we use variables or macros from these global environments, we just prefix them with env dot, and that's how we're gonna use them. So the first one we wanna have is CY SDK root, and this is gonna point to, let's just, I'm being lazy, come from here, start with this. So it goes into our workspace root, then goes one level up, and then it goes to CY SDK 135. And the way this is gonna be used now is gonna be like that. And now let's copy that. Copying is what this is, right? So let's just do a mass find and replace. And I don't want that to be, and I want this to be in current document, and replace them all. And I don't want to see this message again. This is one. Just a quick check to see how that works. Let's go to our main. Let's check here. And it goes and opens the CY U3 system, which is in the Cypress SDK. Why did that happen? Most likely because we already had this previous environment, what's the word I'm looking for, pre-cached. So let's do a quick rescan solution and see if that changes anything. Let's see, open, and it goes to wrong place. So let's clean up the cache completely. Let's just go here, VS, and just delete it all. Caching is, caching is caching. Invalid syntax parsing properties file. That's the reason. There was a bug because there was a missing comma. That's the thing. I'm sure now, if we open the main and go to here, it will open the proper, as embedded, that's the proper place. So let's continue down this rabbit hole. So let's open another random file, and let's get into systems file. So when we navigate into std.int.h, we end up in Cypress again. That is not correct. Where we should be going is our ARM GCC installation, which should be set differently. What should we set to? Let's see. So first, let's go with this ARM GCC version. That definitely is easy. So we'll start with that. 9.3.1, if I'm not mistaken. There's an extra space here. This, we shall find a place for it. So let's take a look at our Makefile. What do we have here for ARM GCC install path? It's this much. So let's just copy it from here, put in here. And pay attention to the fact that, first of all, these are curly braces here, and we do need to use the env namespace to get to it. So with this change, supposedly, let's save that, it should find all the right places. So let's see, where do we go from here. So let's click F12. Let's get to the first one here. Let's see, where do we get, if we hit F12 now, we end up in the proper place, Microsoft Visual Studio, blah, blah, blah. So we are getting rid of Cypress more and more. So let's take a look at these limits. That's another funny place, and it goes to proper place. So as far as I am concerned, cdefs, std def, as far as I'm concerned, this is all Gucci. Let's make sure it's still, well, we didn't change the Makefile, so it should be buildable, but let's just still click it. Another thing, looking at all these repetitions, like this much is clearly repeated. So let's replace that with, what does it look like? GCC lib. Let's just call it that. Inc GCC lib. And this will be the thing. So let's copy that much, because what I want to do now is replace this bunch, Control H, with $env lib and slash. Let's replace them all. Also probably this, I don't like \\. It's not as readable as just a regular slash. This is minimalistic, but good enough. Let's see if it still works the best. Let's kill all the cache again and make sure we are in clear for the syntax for the IntelliSense. Let's go ahead and open the main. Let's navigate F12, click on this one, F12, and go to F12. Let's see, where are these files? This is in a proper place, this one is in a proper place. So far we are good. And all these are being opened in proper place, and this one is also in a proper place. Okay, yeah, so what we are achieving now is a parity between what we have in here in our IntelliSense setup and what we have in a Makefile. In fact, look at this. We do have CY SDK root, ARMGCC install, and these are being set here, but we can just say set it only if it's not already set. And this one should also be set if it's not already set. Let me just make it nicer. SDK, so we called it CY SDK root. Let's just be consistent. Control H, CY SDK root. This time I do want to replace it with taking care of the full word match and the uppercase, lowercase. And this is gonna be question mark. So as a reminder, question mark equal means if the environment variable, or the variable in this case, is not set, then set it, otherwise leave it the way it was before. So if in our script that's coming into here we have ARMGCC version being set to 9.3.2, for example, this will not override it with 3.1, it will just use 9.3.2. So if we ever upgrade, we just need to go up into the colon place, which in our case the environment variables will be coming from the CppProperties.json file. In fact, let's see something here. Let me just copy this and let's info equals this much. And just to show, let's just change this one into 2. And if we now hit build, we should see that it is set to 9.3.2. That's coming from here. It has not been overridden, and of course it should fail, yeah, promptly. So changing it back to 1. You know what else? Let's rearrange things a little bit here to make it more logical. First of all, I think target name is like the most important thing, so why not have it here? Colon equal, not dynamically re-evaluated. It's just what it is, verbatim. Now, VS Abdir is another thing that I think I want to be able to set. What is it? Actually, let's find it out. We have this special, we still have run environment, which will run as the environment, and we can quickly check what this value is. It's over here. Copying it over, being a lazy guy I am. And now we have VS app ID dir. If it is not being set upstream, it is set here. One thing important is to replace the backslashes with forward slashes, otherwise we're gonna have a bad time. We'll probably done find and replace, but fine, already done. In fact, I think that if we go to command line, go to s cd embedded cd cy, if we do cs make, it should work, except it's a backslash here, of course. Because now we are setting all the required environment variables which are being specific to Visual Studio in our Makefile. And we make sure that if it's not coming from above, it's being set, otherwise we just use it as is, making it a little bit more self-contained. You know what, let me just make it prettier, this code, kinda looks good. Clang root. Clang root, we can actually also use that information in the CPP properties, because one thing we can specify in here is which compiler to use to work with IntelliSense, because that will allow the tool to query the toolchain for like compiler defaults, macros and whatnot. So that will be what, our CXX, I suppose. Let me get it from here and let's make it CXX. Of course, we need to change a few things here. First of all, this is curly brace, and then we should remember to use env. Now, the way we use it is by specifying the property called compiler path, if I'm not mistaken, which should be env cxx. In fact, let's make a little bit of a test in our main CPP. Let's add some C++ 11 and 20 features. So const expr auto test 1 would be 1 to do, and also const expr auto, not const expr, const init. Why use the same thing? Const init auto test 2 should be a floating point. Now, if you look at this, why am I using this? You would notice the constinit is not being highlighted as a keyword, but rather as a variable or identifier, which actually would match what we have in here. In our Makefile, I believe, first of all, we can try to build it, but I think it would fail because it would not recognize what const init is, because it's C++ 20 feature, yes. And we are in C++ 17 mode, or 13, or 11, 14, 17, which one is it? It's in GNU 11. No, it should be C++ 20, thank you very much. And while at it, why not make it C11 over here? 17, why not? Now, going back to the main, of course, this change in the Makefile did not affect our ability to IntelliSense, but it should affect our ability to build. Let's build in the C++ 20 mode now. Warning, unused variable. Of course, it's unused variable, so let's take care of that as well. Maybe unused. Why not? Build. So this should build, but we still have problem with the IntelliSense. And this is because we need to say compiler switches. We do want to say std equals C++ 20. Now with that change, unable to open properties file. What is wrong? Compiler switches. I'm pretty sure I saved it that way. Now, if we go to main, we should be seeing the constinit is recognized as properly as it should be, because we only changed it for the configuration profile release. So all other configurations are still blissfully unaware of the C++ 20 mode. So if we switch from release to debug, yep, we go back to constinit not being recognized properly, and any other will also say the same. It actually brings us the compiler error explicit type is missing int assumed, which should not be the case. Let's fix it by copying these 2 lines to every configuration. Unfortunately, we cannot avoid copy pasting here. There is no easy way to share things, even though you can redo some macros. And by the way, you notice that we are copy pasting a whole bunch to include, and you may be inclined to think that we should just copy it into the environments and use it as a macro. Unfortunately, it doesn't get expanded and it just fails to do the right thing. Let's just simplify, not simplify, but reduce some verbosity in terms of number of lines. I think this is it, except that we might want to add this MSVC install path include. That's kinda a mouthful, and I will just make it into another variable to use. That would be over here. We'll call it inc GNU C, because there also will be GNU C++, I suppose. Inc GNU CPP. In fact, it should be based on the inc GNU C, and then it's in C++ and in the version of ARM GCC. Here we go. And let us first of all replace these occurrences with env inc GNU C, and of course we want to be careful about what we don't want to replace the first occurrence, so we'll just replace this one, and that one, but not this one. And we want to add a CPP into here as well, so let's just have it everywhere. And there is one more place where C++ files are at, which I've forgotten, which is in ARM non-EABI place as well. Oh, and I just remembered, so let's copy this. I just remembered that our IntelliSense mode is set incorrectly. It is currently being set to GCC 64. No, Control H, ARM. Now it is more appropriate. And I think we are now good with the properties file. Now let's just take a quick look at the Makefile and see the other changes in here, just rearranging things a little bit to make it more logical, so to speak. We have these assignments which are kind of like coming from above. Let's separate this and have all the, like, to us as a setup would be all grouped up at the top. And then we have our compiler setup and a dir guard. And I think, well, let's be consistent and have spaces around assignment operators everywhere, not just here and there. Consistency actually is a very good thing to have, because then it makes the code readable and easier to understand, because it reduces your cognitive load generally, and you can focus on the meaning, not on the formatting. And this would be the end of our episode today. Let's do a quick build just to make sure everything is still Gucci. Everything is. Yeah, this warning is coming from the fact that we are building with Clang, linking with Clang, which doesn't recognize an attribute, which doesn't affect us in any way, so we just ignore it. Again, we can do a clean all. We can clean and build from command line, which was actually not possible before because we were missing some environment variables. And also, let's do one final check. Let's do a nuclear option. Let's go to program files, Cypress, rename it with an X for now, just to make sure that Visual Studio can definitely not get there. In fact, let me also clean up Visual Studio's cache, so we are not being hit by that either. And now if we go to Visual Studio, we should be able to build and navigate through the code and find all the necessary system, library, and other files that we need. Let's start with the main. And if you just jump into some random header file, F12, and then go to this one, and then scroll down to some system files, and we go to here, limits, cdefs. In my testing, I found that this was the most obscure down location. It all looks fine. It all works. We can go deeper and deeper and deeper, and to some places I've never been to before. And also the Makefile. Let's see, build. While it's building, we can also start preparing for the GitHub. The changes we've made. We made our CPP properties file make more sense. Main C, you know what, I'm not gonna commit this, so let's discard this change over here. And the Makefile is kinda also better logically organized and synchronized with the CPP. Okay, so this is season 1 episode, oh my god, what was the number? D, I believe. ID up IntelliSense setup and sync up with Makefile. That should, let me spell IntelliSense with a camel case, maybe it will like it better. That should about cover it. Commit, push to origin. Now next time we are definitely gonna have some fun with the Copilot. So stay tuned, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now. Oops! After I was done recording the episode, I realized I made a few mistakes and inconsistencies, have not finished some of the stuff that I wanted to finish. First of all, this line, the include for GNU C, is missing in a few configurations. It's been done for 2 of them, but is missing over here and in this one. That's first thing. Second of all, we do not want to include files from the workspace. There are no includes in there, and if we were to have any, we would explicitly list them later on, but for now, nope, none, none, none. because it will be picked up automatically anyway. It doesn't need to go into subdirectories and search through the stuff. And of course, we also need to have this Clang root specified properly, which comes from the Makefile. This is our Clang root. It's over here. Let's copy that, put it into here, and say Clang root equals that thingy. And of course, remember to change braces, add namespace, and also I have forgotten about this place in the assembly file, the if inter equals true. Let's not use true, let's use 1, which also makes us change it in the Makefile. We define it for the assembly over here. Let's define it to 1, because true is kinda, it depends on whether the macro true is defined or not, which we cannot really rely on. Let's build, just to make sure it's buildable, but there is no reason it shouldn't be. And the last thing is these two files. We are not going back to Eclipse, so we can safely remove this. And with that, we should also probably remove this and that, because we don't need these anymore. Now, let's do that part. Instead of creating a new commit, we're gonna go to history, I'm gonna right click and say amend commit. Yes, I am sure it's not as safe when it's already been pushed, but since I'm currently the only user of this repository, it should not have a problem. So yes, begin the amend, and just I'm happy with the comment as it is. It will just add these changes on top of what has already been done. So amend last commit, and fetch origin and deliver and force it. Yes, I'm sure. With this we are done, and now off to make the next episode. So I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.